Weird sciencey facts that boggle my mind. We recently discovered that people were building shit before there was people. At least Homo sapiens, the people we are today. We evolved in our more or less current state about 315,000 years ago. But archaeologists have found man-made wooden structures in Zambia that date back almost 500,000 years. This was during the Stone Age, the time of Neanderthals, cavemen, the predecessors to our current species. And this has some wide-ranging implications on our understanding of the evolution of human history. See, something we kind of believed was unique to Homo sapiens is our use of complex tools. Previous models of our species used tools as well all throughout the Stone Age, but they were crude. Sticks for digging, stones for spearheads, hammers, and basic cutting tools. And that was about it. We believed they really didn't use wood for anything other than handles for their stone tools and fuel for fire. But these wooden structures show that some of them did use wood for construction materials and that they had to have more complex tools and greater understandings of how to use them in order to build these wooden structures. But it shakes our understanding of our own history even more than that. We have believed that all humans were nomadic till about 12,000 years ago. We wandered around from place to place, chasing food sources and tolerable weather. And this still is undeniably a way of life for many, many prehistoric humans. But before this, we thought it was all prehistoric humans. But these structures show that these particular prehistoric humans stopped, set up shop in one place and started modifying their surroundings and their environment to make life easier for them. And that has huge implications because modern society, technology, complex language, for people to achieve all that, they had to be sitting still. It's hard to invent things and build communities and establish complex forms of communication when you're chasing critters across continents. So in our current understandings of the timeline of humanity, people settled down and started practicing agriculture about 12,000 years ago. Small agricultural communities grew into bigger communities and eventually into civilizations about 6,000 years ago. And all the major advancements in human civilization have happened in that tiny little time frame since then. But what the fuck happened? If humans first sat down and quit their little ADD pacing around the world 500,000 years ago rather than 12,000 years ago, why have we not had spaceflight and advanced interconnected global civilizations for well over 450,000 years by now? And the answer to that is, we don't know. Was this a one-off group of early man that just found a place they liked and stayed a while and just a fluke in our history? It's hard to say because wood often rots away. And even when we do find wood like this that has managed to survive that long, in this case, because it was submerged in mud and water away from oxygen so it couldn't rot, figuring out exactly how old it is pretty hard. So hard, in fact, that this archaeological site was actually found in the 1960s, but it wasn't until just recently we figured out how old it actually was and the implications of it. Because carbon dating can only figure out how old something is to about 50,000 years. And geological records normally don't start getting real accurate until you get into the millions of years. So there's a bunch of time that we've existed that, like that awkward friend you have, it's hard to find a date for. But now we've got a new technology called luminescence dating that can tell you how long it's been since something's been exposed to sunlight. And that's how we dated this, and this new technology could help us learn a lot more about the early us's. That still doesn't change the fact that most of the materials that early communities and possibly early civilizations would have used have just rotted away by now. And just how advanced our early prehistoric ancestors were, we may never know. It is possible that these people were an anomaly. It's possible that there was massive communities, a budding civilization perhaps, and it could have been wiped out by disease or war or famine, forcing people back into a nomadic lifestyle. But I think the thing that baffles me the most about all of this is how one little tiny event or non-event can alter the entire course of human history. Had civilization actually taken root over 450,000 years ago, we possibly could have colonized the galaxies by now, or already driven ourselves into extinction like we're working on at the moment. And just to put that concept into perspective and just a little bit more modern, tangible feel, and how we came within practically minutes of having civilization be thousands of years more advanced than it is today, is that the Industrial Revolution was kicked off with the invention of the steam engine in 1712. We went from the very first motor to the man on the moon in about 250 years. Except we didn't, because the first steam engine was actually invented by ancient Egyptians in the year 100, nearly 2,000 years ago. The great inventor of Alexandria attached a sealed cauldron with tubes to a free-spinning ball that had angled outlets. Fill the cauldron with water, set it over a fire, and as steam escaped those angled outlets, the ball would spin. The world's very first steam engine. And Heron, the great inventor, said that this remarkable toy had no practical purpose. But had this great inventor had a slightly more practical imagination, the Industrial Revolution that launched man into space in a couple hundred years could have gotten started a couple thousand years ago. And the fact that tiny events means that the most advanced civilization in human history is thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years more primitive than it could have been, well, that is pretty mind-boggling.